Hello. Hello, hi. I'm Hedwig Heinsman, indeed co-founder of Aectual. It's really nice to be here. I hope that some more people will still walk in during my talk. Aectual is a platform for fully circular and also customizable interior and architectural features at scale made from recycled waste materials. And we're called Aectual because we like to make the virtual real, and we like to actualize other people's dreams, enable designers and architects to really create really bespoke products, but at scale in a very easy manner. We're on a mission to really push or boost circular manufacturing and a different way of using materials in the building industry, and also to really democratize the act of making architecture. And we do that by really combining these two elements. So on the one hand, really new digital design tools, directly connecting them to large-scale 3D manufacturing. You all know this, but I think it's still good to let this sink in that the building industry is a really massive industry, and it also really faces some massive challenges. And some 40% of all global carbon emissions are caused by our industry. And also roughly 1/3 of all the waste in the world is actually caused by our industry. And when you zoom into that, in the Western world, interiors of hotels, offices, stores are repeatedly refurbished every 3 to 7 years on average. And this results in a staggering amount of waste. It's actually also a lot of economic value going to waste, because this is a 2 trillion industry. You probably all know this. Buildings, they actually consist of a lot of different components, and all these components, they have different life cycles. So you have the stuff that surrounds you, you have the cladding, you have ceilings, you have the skin, the facade, you have the surfaces, and you have the structure. And we as Aectual, we actually focus on all those components apart from the structure that have a life cycle of approximately 5 years to 50 years. And what is really interesting is that actually additive manufacturing and circular manufacturing go hand in hand, and they really work very well together, because it works so that you digitally design a product, it's 3D printed, it's used. After some time, perhaps it's outdated, you want something smarter, it's taken back, it's shredded, and it can be reprinted into a smarter product. So this is a material feedback loop, but it's actually also a data-driven feedback loop that continuously enables us to create more optimized products. It's actually also a very interesting business model, but maybe I can talk about that later. So we have a factory in Amsterdam where we have 4 of these robots. It's our own proprietary technology. We work with ABB robots. I will explain a bit more about it in a while. We work with recycled waste materials primarily, and also plant-based plastics that we developed in partnerships with large multinationals. Also a bit more about that later. I'm also quite proud that our products are more and more getting recognitions and quite positive reviews, like this one from Forbes. And it started roughly some 5 years ago. This was one of our first projects. We 3D printed the facade benches, these blue benches, for a pavilion that was made when the Netherlands was hosting the EU presidency. This building was there for 6 months. And the material afterwards actually has been recycled already for several times. And I have a small movie about that. that is us, a platform for circular and customizable interior and architectural items at scale. How does it work? Our users, it's mostly architects, designers, sometimes end users. They can go online, they can pick a product template, and upon build their own configured item. You can really scale it to the size of the building. After that, a smart 3D print file is created, so all the data and knowledge is already embedded in the file. It's 3D printed by us and in our network. The products are then installed by partners. This is really easy because it's all made to measure, so it fits. And we also know from our database where the products are at. And when the client wants to use a new product, change his interior, we have a take-back service, so free of charge. We take back the items, we make sure that it's shredded and it's ready for a next round. So here we have a fully circular material loop and actually also a fully circular data-driven loop. And what is interesting is that now as a company we have a business model that's just based on a fee per asset sold. But what we're now doing is that we're moving also to a subscription-based model, and that you as a user can actually lease the material. So that's something that we're super excited about. So what kind of items do we have? We have objects on the one hand, so that's furniture, stools, planters, screens, and we have systems, and systems are larger. They are really adaptive to the size of your building. So this is flooring, wall paneling, all kinds of furniture paneling, ceilings, soon also facades. And I will now show you a few examples. So one are these weave panels. What is quite nice here is that they enable the designer to create totally their own pattern, really create a very special woven effect. And actually one of the first clients that used this was Nike. It's actually here in London. You can see it in Oxford Street in the flagship store, Nike Town. They wanted to create panels that sort of, mimicked or recreated the feeling of their Flyknit shoe. So they created a pattern that really, created this effect. This is the result. You can still watch it, but what is of course also nice is that if the interior changes, we take back the panels and they are recycled. So there's really no waste here. So this is on the scale of interiors. Here's an example on the larger scale, architecture. This is actually the Dutch House of Representatives. Perhaps you wouldn't say it. The original House of Representatives is a beautiful 17th century building, but it's at the moment undergoing massive renovations. So the entire parliament has moved to this building, and ZEC Architects, a Dutch architecture firm, did the refurbishment of the interior, and they contacted us to create this 3D printed canopy. So these are actually also made out of these woven panels. So the white elements that you see here are based on the same system. And how did it work? The designers shared their files with us, and together with them we generated patterns until they really liked the design. Sorry. I have a weird old lady's cough, so apologies. All the parts were then segmented according to the easiest way that they could be manufactured, but also that the design and the pattern would look well. And actually then we started to really generate the final design. And what you can see here, for instance, is that also items such as the mounting details are really integrated in the panel itself. So because we 3D print, it's very easy for us to create really custom hanging details, very bespoke, nice details, so that you get a really, very slick finish. And the same, for instance, goes also for the column detail. So you don't see this, but what we do know is that, for instance, this is built, it's one column, but it's actually built in 3 different print settings. So every different setting has its own speed, heat, line thickness, and this is done sometimes in 3D printing, but it's still quite rare, so we're quite proud of this. And then you get this end result, and I think what is quite special is I think it's quite a nice architecture, but also here it is fully circular. So 5 years from now, when the House of Representatives will move back to the old location, it is possible that this canopy also will totally be recycled. So that's on the scale more of architecture. on the scale of your private home. This is now also a possibility. This is an example of the same panel, but then configured as an acoustic wall panel. You can have it in your house. And what is nice is that now you can already, as a consumer, also go to our web shop and just configure it to your taste. You see, of course, that the price relates to, the design. But what I really like is that soon also what you'll see changing here is actually impact. So that will be the next factor that's added, so you can live see what's actually the environmental impact of the product in relation to the design. Another thing, we as a company are really there to help other designers and architects, but we do have an in-house design studio. We love to collaborate with other designers, and I think a great example of that is, for instance, acoustic panels that we made together with Grammatio Köhler Studio. They have a professorship at the ETH in Zurich. You see here Matthias Köhler and Romana Rust. And they designed these sound wave panels. This is actually a sound lab at the ETH. And what is really quite exciting here is that actually the shape of these waves, they relate to an algorithm that really defines the optimal acoustic diffusion. So if you would prefer a different diffusion, they can, with the algorithm, really change the shape of the waves. What really excites me is that they now also made it available for Aectual to also sell to other designers. We, by the way, also manufactured it. So what you see here is all produced by us. This is actually a render of a project in the Netherlands where it will be used later this year. It's a former airbase that's going to be converted in a sort of multifunctional space. And what I think is really nice here is that very frequently architecture, it's really a one-off, and there's so much knowledge in this one-off, and it's really a pity that this is not used more often. And what I really like is that this is now possible. So in that sense, I think it's very much about democratizing design, but it's also, I think, an interesting thing because it also offers a new economic model also for architects and designers, because also Grammatio Köhler, they get a rev share, of course, of every system sold. So this is on the larger scale, but also here the same goes for when you just want to use it in your private house as a really lovely acoustic wall piece. So in this manner, there's quite a lot of products. One of my personal favorites are these semi-open gradient panels, like this curve panel. What this does is that you can really determine how open or closed these cells are, and by that way you can really define how much shade you'd like to enter into your building. So we often use these as blinds in front of windows, or room dividers. You see a few downstairs in the Lenovo booth. So they're used as furniture paneling, window screens, dividers, and they come in all kinds of variations. So this is a different variation, same algorithm, same function, used as as a divide between the restaurant and the actual kitchen part. But I think what is also a quite nice example is this. So this was at the Milan fair 2 weeks ago, at the furniture fair. So Patricia Urquiola, a very famous designer, she designed a stand for Ketal furniture, and she also opted for our panels, and she configured it to her taste, and it was there. And in 1 week, we printed about 200 square meters of panels. And the nice thing is that now after the fair, it's all being shredded and reprinted. And you can imagine that also in fair design, there's a tremendous amount of waste. And we solve this by really working in a circular manner. Another example, this is the Future Museum in Dubai. Atelier Bruckner, an architecture firm, inquired. They came to us and they were curious to create a double curved panel. And we were up for the challenge, so that's this, the result. It's an origami panel, and what is really nice is that you can bend it in several ways, so it's very flexible, but it still has a very structural appearance. So this is one of the permanent exhibitions there. I think it speaks for itself. Also, this is made from plant-based plastics, based on flax, and after use, this is also fully recyclable. Another example, So screens that are more like almost woven or knitted. This really becomes almost like a fabric. And this goes on and on. And what is really nice, I think, is that you really can become very playful with this, really create your own design. Just give us a bitmap, and the next day you have your own unique version. So to talk a bit more about materials, we work with several partners in material development. We used to do this really ourselves, but why are we really partnering now is because, of course, we want to have a steady supply. Henkel is one of our partners, and with them we offer a material that's made out of plant oil, so much less harmful on the environment. And the great asset of this material is that it's very easy to recycle. We also work with Resinex. With them we print with recycled polypropylene. And of course, a big problem with recycled waste material is, a big problem with waste material is that there's really a lot of it. But in a way, that's also our advantage, because there's never really a short of supply. There's a tremendous amount of waste, and we all can really use all that material to create really beautiful items. And I now would like to show you a new collaboration that we just launched a few weeks ago. It's an ecosystem with several partners, one of the biggest being Tetra Pak, the manufacturer of the drink cartons. It's actually so that in the world some 200 billion drink cartons are produced every year. And until very recently, it was very difficult to recycle these drink cartons. I mean, they could recycle the carton, which is about 75%, but the polymers and the aluminium, which together is some 25%, were very difficult to reuse. And now we are able to 3D print with that and actually also create quite nice architectural surfaces and products with it. Actually, when you go downstairs to the Lenovo booth, you see a few black stools, and they are printed with that material. And when you look up close, you see that it's really matte. It's almost a bit like concrete, but it is in fact entirely made out of recycled drink cartons. And I have a small movie about that. Oh, no, that's later on, sorry. But maybe to show you this, why I put in this image is that to remind myself also that it's not a push of a button, that you put the material in and then it's there. This is an image of the first time the material that we made with Henkel came out of the printer. It was an absolute disaster. It looked more like sort of honey, and it really took us over a year of testing, tweaking, changing the heat, the speed, until we really had a great result. And in that sense, now I think we really master the craft of printing, and we also really know which material has which settings and also is good for which use. For instance, recycled polypropylene is very good for outdoor use. It's very hard wearing, it's super durable. This is an example of large planters that we printed recently at the Mauritshuis. That's a museum in The Hague. And then now I have the movie about our Tetra Pak material. So what is quite exciting is that Tetra Pak has some 150 offices, and incrementally they're going to refurbish all their offices with their own material, their own waste material. This is an image, a render of what one of these rooms could look like. This is in fact a canteen, and all the yellow-brown material that you see here is made out of Tetra Pak material. And the product says it already in its name, it's the wrap. It simply wraps around anything, so planters, bars, columns, and what is really exciting is that you really can create your own shape. So here it's a sort of half-pipe shape, but of course you can also invert it. You can zigzag it, so there's a lot of design freedom. And this goes on and on, because sorry, because you can also wrap it around booths. So these are now our phone booths that we have recently launched, where you can also totally create your own custom exterior, but also these meeting areas. This is based on a block principle. So these blocks, they click together and you can really design your own exterior and interior wrapping around it. We don't only partner with material partners, we sometimes also partner with product partners. This is a collaboration with DUS. They make floors based on a bio-based infill with a marble terrazzo made from the marble waste industry. And we have also in our configurator here a solution that you really simply can create patterns in any size, in any pattern. How does that work? We 3D print these segment mats. They are flat packed, they're shipped to the location, then they are welded together by heat, and you get these gargantuan mats with beautiful patterns. Then the terrazzo is poured, it's sanded, and then you get this really smooth end result. Oh, this is an example of design.
Design is an evolving concept. It's always related to the social values that surround you. The perception is fundamental.
Patricia Occiola is an industrial designer that, of course, we have known for a long time. When I first saw Patricia's ideas for the BMW Weld, what I liked immediately was the floor. It is something very traditional Italian, terrazzo, but the way that she applied it is very high-tech because it's almost done like digital printing.
So a few examples. This is, for instance, how Zaha Hadid used our technology for a pavilion they made. It was exhibited in Venice last year. An example by Nike. I think it's the largest Nike store where the designers created running tracks that go in all directions. It's quite lovely. I'm almost at the end of my talk. This is our factory. As you can see, at times it's a bit cramped. So next year we're expanding. How it works is that we have our own facility in Amsterdam where we have 4 of these robots running 24/7. We can print about 50 square meters in one go. But also we're really now about scaling up and really building out our platform. So we're also partnering already with other print manufacturers. So in that sense also, when you are really good at 3D printing and you're interested, let me know and let's have a chat afterwards because we love to connect. We have our objects, we have our systems, we also have our studios. Sometimes people want something really crazy and we're intrigued to still help them. So this is an example of a meanwhile use product that's already a bit older, the Urban Cabin, also fully recyclable. This is one of my favorites. This is the tiny Bauhaus. This traveled Europe 2 years ago when it was 100 years Bauhaus, and this is actually entirely made with our products. So I think here it really shows all the possibilities. I think what is really nice is that, you know, you can create really your own cladding, you can create really lovely intricate details, everything really connects to each other. A canopy can come out of a wall, seating can come out of a wall. Where we're at now is that we really have a circular service. This is also really why clients come to us. We take care of everything. A small example is, for instance, this collaboration that we just now did with Hermes last week. A tiny pavilion that's also going to a few places. I heard it might even come to London. A few months from now, this will be shredded and it will be reprinted into something new with Hermes. So this is on a very small scale, but we also do this on a much larger scale. This is a pavilion that is now in Almere at the Floriade. That's a horticultural exhibition that's there every 10 years, and there are several countries that really have their pavilion there. This is the pavilion for the UAI. We printed this in 1 month. We printed this big claustra wall and also the green panels. And the architects, they contacted us. What is nice about this claustra wall is that actually when you walk by, you see that there's also really a change in pattern. So it's not just triangles, but there's really a sort of optical trick in it. I think you really should come and have a look, because a few months from now, also this one, it will go in the shredder. My colleague Hans He met with the Minister of Climate last week in the pavilion of the UAE to discuss also what we're going to build next. I would love to welcome you also to have a look at our platform and explore all the possibilities with us, and also to really push our circular movement further. Thank you.
Thanks, Hedwig. We don't have a lot of time for questions, but I'm going to sneak in a couple. So you were showing earlier the online web scalability. So I know one of the things that you're offering is this service for architects to design their own interior panels. You'll print them for you, but also there's a life after that, in that they could license for you to print them or to sell them. So is it a case of I would give you the recipe from my Rhino script, and so the sliders things work so it grows and shrinks from computational geometry, or is it no, okay.
No, actually what we do is we create the products and architects configure it, and in some very special cases, like for instance Grammatische Keuler, because they're just brilliant architects, they actually create something bespoke with us and we really develop it together. So we're not a print shop that you just, bring this to us. It's always done in communication. But the good thing is that there's just a lot of great architecture firms in this room. So I really think that we can make an exception for those.
And one other thing, so these are quite tall panels, and you seem to be printing some lying down, some standing up. There's different strategies depending on the design as to how you print it. Is that process automated, or is it a case of you get given something, or you produce something, and then you've got to work out how do we print this, or is there some kind of special sauce?
That is a special sauce, so I'm not going to share. No, but it is automated, and of course there's always room for improvement there. But what we can do now, we create print file really like that, and that's also needed because we also now are really scaling and putting production also to other factories, so that's really needed. And
do you do any analysis on the panels for FEA kind of flexibility, or that none of them are that big that they cause that problem?
Well, in that sense, we have a lot of data, and our panels are not structural, but one of the reasons also why our clients come to us and maybe not like another print company is because we really offer all the certifications, so all the UV specs, fire resistance, etc. Of course, that's needed. That's also the reason that now we print a lot of temporary solutions. I'm very excited that soon there will be also permanent facade cladding added to that mix, but that just requires a lot of research, so we're doing that right now.
Okay, thanks. Hedwig, that's brilliant.